Hello and welcome. Welcome back to another video here at This Dude Draws. Today is a tutorial on how to sculpt Stitch. Now, if you're a beginner, please do not panic. Sculpting and modeling, as you'll see, and the more you do it, it's actually very simple. You know, once you just slow down and you try and really understand what's going on, you'll see that there's not much to it. Yes, over time, the more you practice, the better you'll get at it. But the basics and the fundamentals are quite simple. Breaking down the character into different shapes, and then, you know, going further into sculpting more of the detail, and then refining it with even more detail. It's just a step-by-step process that you got to follow. So it's not that bad. But yeah, thank you for clicking on this video. I'm excited to do this with you, and we're going to do it, and it's going to be great. So let's get started. The reference image will be in the description below in the video. We're just going to be using this as a guide for our character Stitch. And let's go. You'll see in the bottom left hand corner of my screen here will be the keys that I will be pressing on my keyboard and mouse, just so you know which keys I am pressing, especially if you're new to Blender. And yeah, let's get into it. So the first thing we want to do, what I like to do is just hide the camera and the light from the scene, just to get that out of the way, and I can just focus on the creation of the character here. Alright, so let me start by, the first thing we want to do is break down the character into simple shapes. Alright, so that's what we're going to do now. So I'm going to delete this cube and start by adding, obviously I pressed Shift A on the keyboard, gives me a shortcut panel. And I'm just going to break this character down into simple shapes. Let's start by adding a UV sphere. I'm going to go to the front view. So this will be the head. I'm going to move it up here, nice, and he's got a big head. Go into edit mode, scale it down slightly. So that'll be the head. All right, now we need to do the body. So again, we can just go add. Now we can, for the body, we can break it down into two spheres. A smaller sphere for the torso, and then a bigger sphere for the lower abdomen body area. So let's do that. So use UV sphere, move that up, make it smaller. So we can have that for the body, the torso, and we can just duplicate that by pressing Shift D. I'm going to move it down by pressing G, Z, move it down on the Z axis, and scale up with the S on the keyboard. And then we will move this back on the X axis slightly. Same with that one, because he is sitting on his bum. So we just want to try and recreate what we see in a very simple way with simple shapes. So we've got his head, got his torso, and we've got his lower body. And we'll refine this stuff in the sculpting section of the video. So very simple. The head, what I want to do is possibly just tilt it up, rotate it on the Y axis, just tilt it up slightly. Then for the ears, we're going to go add a cube, move that up, scale it down. I'm trying not to move too fast. So we added a cube, we scaled it down. I'm going to move it on the on the Y axis to the side of the head, and a little smaller, and slightly back on the X. And bring that down, move it up. So yeah, just follow what I'm pressing on the keyboard. But I would suggest that if you've never used Blender before, then this video is not for you. I would suggest go and find a video tutorial that shows you the basics of Blender. For instance, scaling, moving objects, deleting objects, adding objects into the scene. and then come back to this video. Once you got those basics, then this should be fine. All right, we've got that. Now I want to go into edit mode because I want to actually shape this to basically look like the ear. Doesn't have to be 100%. We can fix all of that when in sculpt mode. So we've got that. We can extrude that upwards, scale it up, extrude, scale it down, and we can actually move that up slightly. Extrude, scale, move. Yeah, and we can select edge selection, select that edge, move it up on the Z-axis slightly, just so we got the general shape of this ear. I want to select this edge, and I'm going to go to select edge loops, so it selects all the edges all the way around. Move that by pressing G on the Y-axis, and we're going to move that up slightly, just so we got a general ear shape. I mean, that looks not too bad. We can work with that. Go back to object mode. So we got that. Now let me just save our project, because if we lose this, always save your projects, guys. It's the most important thing. Because yeah, if the power goes out, then you got a problem. You lose all your work. Stitch, save. All right. Now we're going to create the shoulders and the arms. So we're just going to select this sphere, duplicate it. We can actually use the move mode. So go to the move tool, move that over, scale it down, and then move it forward slightly. We just want to move it into the general position of the shoulder as seen on the images, the reference image. But we're not going to do the left side. We're only going to do the right side and mirror that onto the left side. That is the easiest way to do this very quickly and efficiently. So I've got that. Now we want to add a sphere, a cylinder into the scene for the forearm. Scale it down. I'm going to scale it up and down again. And I'm just going to go to my side view. Try and rotate that to match like that. Make sure it's close to the bottom. Okay, so we're going to go into edit mode, select face selection, select the top face, scale it down, try and move it inwards into that area. That looks pretty good. Select the bottom face, scale it up, extrude, scale down, something like that, and then we can extrude again, scale down. And what I want to do is I want to add a loop cut right over here. So I'm going to go to loop cut, click and hold to drag this up slightly, release, go to my side view, and then I want to just move this down slightly to just get the kink in the shoulder here. And then go back to object mode, select the shoulder, move it forward a bit and make it larger. It's got quite bulky shoulders, so we're going to try and capture that. Yeah, so that is looking pretty good. It's not perfect, but it's not bad. We can actually use the bottom part of his body to make the tail, so we can do, well, we don't even need to actually, so I'm going to delete that out of the scene. So when we sculpt, we can just pull out a piece here and sculpt that into the tail. But yeah, so that's that. And now we got to do the paws. What I would like to do is use a cube, scale it down. It might be best to, yeah, let's go to the side view, move it forward, scale up, scale it down on the Z-axis to get that paw shape, move it over. Yeah, we're getting there, scale it down. Really just got to play around with it until you feel like you've got something you can work with. Let's move that up. So that could be the paw. Okay, let's go into edit mode. What I want to do is select the back face, go to selection box, face selection, select the back face, scale it down on the Y axis. All right. Select the front face, scale it on the Y, make it larger, scale it down on Z. Not too much, you don't want that part sticking out there. There you go. Object mode. And yeah, this will be the paw. It's not perfect, but we got to work with it. Let's actually go back into edit mode, add a single loop cut on the front. Then selection mode, select that edge. Make sure you've got the edge selection option on. Go to move and move that forward a bit. Right, so that gives us like a little very rough paw to work with. Now I can already see that his head is too small. So we're going to select the head and the ear and scale that up. Let's actually select the head alone. I just undo what I did previously. Just select the head, press S to scale, make it nice and big, because Stitch has a really big head. And then go to the ear, scale it up nicely. Yeah, and you can actually rotate that slightly outward by pressing R and then moving your mouse outward. Right, so there you got something almost resembling Stitch. Now we got to do the right leg, because everything on the right here, we just will use the mirror modifier and flip it to the left hand side. So we don't need to create all of that. So let's do that now. What I'm going to do is just take the sphere, duplicate it, and I'm going to move it down by pressing G on the keyboard. Make sure it sits on the right hand side here of his hip. Make it slightly larger. Scale it on the X axis. And then go rotate on the Z axis. Rotate it inward. And then I'm going to grab this little blue square box right here. I'm going to move that in. Okay. Rotate again on, press R for rotate, Z to rotate on the Z axis. So press Z on the keyboard to rotate on the Z axis. Move it in again a little bit, just so it sticks out nicely, because we got to add the foot in here. There's got to be enough space for all this stuff. Okay. Now for the foot, we're going to keep it super simple. We're just going to duplicate this shoulder again, move it away, and then move it into place here. Scale it up, and then scale it inward on the X axis to make it nice and flat. And then we're going to move it around on with this blue square that moves it around on the horizontal plane, like that. The red and yellow boxes will move it on the vertical plane. So I'm just going to move that into place, and I'm going to rotate that on the Z-axis. So R, Z, shift it, your mouse so it rotates slightly, and then yeah, now it's kind of facing outward slightly, and it's starting to look kind of like Stitch. I can see a few issues here. For instance, on the reference photo, the leg is out further than the front legs, so we might have to scale this up, and again on the X, and then just move it in. Now if you've lost your foot, don't panic, just go to wireframe mode and select again until you've selected that. Just move it out, go back to viewport shading render in the top right hand corner. Alright, what I want to do is make the shoulder a little bit bigger and move it in again, and then the front paw I'm going to make a little smaller, and I'm actually going to I want to move this front leg in a little bit and rotate it by pressing R and Y. So rotate it on the Y axis inward a little bit. Yeah, there we go. I'm going to select the front leg, go to edit mode, select the plane selection, select the box tool, make sure you select just that plane, and then extrude again, left click, and move by pressing G, move it inward into that cube. Alright, go back to object mode, and I actually want to rotate this paw, so go press R and then Z and rotate it inward slightly. So there we go. This kind of feels like a Stitch here. I don't know, what do you think? Let's select the ear, make it a bit wider, so we can just do that by pressing scale, by pressing S, and then scale it on the Y axis and make it nice and wide. Alright, now what we can do, remember to save, is this is a very important part before you start sculpting. You want to select, we're going to do this with all of the objects in the scene. We want to select, let's start with the ear, and you want to go to Object, Apply. And we want to apply the location, rotation, and scale. I'm just going to say all transforms. And you want to do that with every single object in your scene. Apply all transforms. Because if you don't do that, when you start sculpting, there's going to be some weird issues when you've been scaling objects. So just don't worry about the details too much. I would just remember, it's very important before you start sculpting. Select all the objects, go to Object, Apply all transforms, and do that with every single object in your scene. Object, apply all transforms. Object, apply all transforms. Every single object, super important. Alright, we can save that. Now what you can do is add we want to mirror this onto the left hand side. So what you can do is you can select before we do that, let's merge some of these objects, right? So we want to select the shoulder, the forearm, and the paw. Actually, let's leave the paw. Let's just select the shoulder and the forearm, and you want to press Control. What is the best way? Let's think about this. The best way is to use a boolean. So select it. Let's just go here quickly to Edit Preferences, Add-ons, Search. Okay. So you're going to go to Modifiers. So with the shoulder selected, go to Modifiers tab on the right here, Add Modifier, Search, Boolean. You want to click on Union and then select the second object, which is the forearm, because we want to join these objects. Let's just see by applying. Okay, so we've done that, and we're gonna hit apply. And I just want to see if this came out good enough. All right, why is there a copy? Okay, so for some reason there's a second shoulder in our scene. For instance, if you set a forearm, I mean, so if you select this forearm and you move it by pressing G, you'll see there's another forearm for some reason. We don't want that, so just you select it by, you can click and then click again, click. Okay, so just make sure you can go to wireframe mode if that helps, and just look for it. See, there it is. Just click on it until you've got it selected, and then we're just going to delete it by pressing X and delete. Go back to solid view mode. Alright, so this is now a solid object, or supposed to be. Why is this not a solid object? It is. Alright, good. Okay, yeah, good. So this is now a solid object, and that's what we want. The paw will leave separate for now. And then what you want to do is do the same. We can leave the foot separate as well for now. But on the shoulder, you're going to select the forearm shoulder, go to Add Modifier, Search, Mirror. And you want to mirror on the Y-axis. Okay. And you can leave it like that for now. And then same on the paw, Add Modifier, Search, type Mirror, select Mirror. Make sure you deselect the X-axis and enable the Y-axis, because we're mirroring on the Y-axis. See, that's the Y. So this is Y-axis, and that way is the X-axis, as you can see up here. So we want to mirror on the Y-axis. There you go. Save that. And you could do the same for the legs. Search, mirror, enable Y. Same with the foot. Search, mirror, enable Y. So there we've got something resembling a stitch. Let's do the same with the ear. And there we've got our basic shape for our stitch. And now we are going to be moving on to the modeling, the sculpting section, of this video. I think one last thing we can do is just add a nose. So we're going to just go Shift A, Mesh, UV Sphere, go to our side view, scale it down on the S axis, and just place a nose. up there, because we are going to need this bottom section to create the mouth. I almost don't want to do the mouth open because that is a little bit more complex for this video, but I do want to stay true to the reference image. So I'm not 100% sure what to do. I gotta think about it. Alright, so to stay true to the reference photo, we are going to have to do a bottom jaw. So this is what we're going to do for now. I'm going to select the head and duplicate it. Then I only want to see this the sphere that I've selected. I don't want to see everything else. So I'm going to hit backspace on the keyboard, and that will only bring my focus to this object. I'm going to go into edit mode, and then side view. Then I'm going to go to wireframe mode, and I'm going to go to vertices selection. Then I'm going to change my selection tool to lasso. Then what I want to do is I just want the bottom half of the sphere. So I'm going to click there, hold, and drag this between these vertices all the way to the other side, and then do a half moon all the way around like that, all the way back to the beginning, and release. So that will have only selected this area, which is what I wanted. Then I'm going to hit X on the keyboard to delete, and select delete vertices. Going back to object mode and to solid view mode, you can see I have a little half cap circle. I'm going to hit backspace again, and now I've got a little half circle. I'm going to move it out forward on the x-axis, and I want to right click on it and say set origin to geometry. So that'll be the pivot point, the origin point. So when I move, it's in the center of this object. I'm going to go to the side view, rotate it on the y-axis, and just try and position it into place so it looks like a bottom jaw. Rotate Y. Yeah, because what I want to do is this top part I'm going to be pushing in. That's going to be the inside of his mouth and throat. This part of the sphere, and the bottom, this bottom half disc or sphere will be his bottom jaw. I know it might sound a little confusing at the moment, but it'll make sense once we start sculpting. And what you want to do is, obviously, we need some volume to the sphere, right, to model. So I'm going to select it again, and we're going to go to add, modifier, search, solidify. We're going to adjust the thickness inward, nice and thick, and we're going to go hit apply. So we've basically got a bottom jaw, as you can see. I know it looks a little strange. We can actually scale it down slightly, but we're going to be, like I said, when we start sculpting, we're going to be pushing in this front part here all the way in, and that's going to form his mouth inside and throat, and this will form his bottom jaw. And eventually we will join these two objects together into one single object, so we can smooth it out, obviously, on the edges here. But yeah, I'm just trying to build the basic shape. before I start sculpting. Give myself as much information as I can and interpret this character as best I can before I start, you know, really sculpting away and trying to make this look like Stitch. The body at the back, I'm going to just make slightly bigger by scaling it up on the S-axis. That looks a little better, and move it backwards slightly. Alright, let's save that. Cool.